Hi Internet, welcome to the Greg Troyan YouTube channel, and welcome to Greg's 14 Adventures, a weekly vlog where I discuss my journey through Final Fantasy XIV as a first-time player. I beat A Realm Reborn back in 2022, and I'm finally finishing up the rest of the game. These vlogs are documenting my journey. If you like these videos and want to support their continued production, the best way to do that is to like the video, share it on a relevant social media site like Reddit, and leave a comment. Thanks, pal. Hey everyone, it's your buddy Greg. Hope you're having an awesome day. Hope you're healthy. Hope you're happy. Hope all is going well in your life. I am slightly intimidated about recording the audio for this week's vlog because I have more notes for this vlog than I had for any of the other vlogs that I did. There's so many notes. I'm like, oh man, how long is this vlog going to be? Am I even going to get it done on time? So I'm a little bit intimidated by this, if I'm being honest. I was so ready to just be done with the Heavensward patch content and move on to Stormblood, and so I got the rest of the MSQ done this week, along with the Heavensturn event, which I did twice, once with my main character Lighto, and once with my alt character Greg Troyan, playing with Summoner Jobin once a week. And those last few MSQ quests of the Heavensward patch content were pretty dense in terms of story, so there's a lot to talk about. Rather than beat around the bush some more, let's just get right into my 14 playing this week and my thoughts on the content. So as mentioned in the intro, the first thing I did this week was the New Year's quest. I did that as Lighto, and it is the Year of the Horse in the real world, and so it is also the Year of the Horse in Final Fantasy XIV. And so the Heavensturn event is a New Year's tradition that largely celebrates Eastern culture in Hydaelyn, which I was very excited for all of that because getting ready for Stormblood, all of this just seemed to be, getting me prepped and excited for going to that part of 14's world that I hadn't yet experienced, that I've, seen in trailers for so long. I'm excited to finally go to those Eastern regions. And so getting this taste of Eastern culture, which, I've done Heavensturn a few times before, but to get that right before Stormblood was a nice little treat. And I do like how in the New Year's quest, there was a bit of lore about Orshafant in there, about how Orshafant was defending the introduction of horses into Eorzea and, was helping the people from the east not be harassed by Eorzean citizens. And so Orshafant just once again showing himself to be a solid dude. And just the look on Lighto's face when realizing that the Heavensturn person is talking about Orshafant, and just that bittersweetness and that extra layer you get from the story if you've gone through Heavensward, because I played the event with Greg Troyan later with Summoner Jobin, and that little snippet of the cutscene with that facial expression isn't there if you haven't gotten through Heavensward. And so I do like that the seasonal events will add that little extra bit depending on how far you are into 14's story. I thought that was actually pretty cool. But yeah, the award for the event was a unicorn minion, which is also, the unicorn is also the symbol of House Fort Tom. And so I actually took the unicorn minion over to Orshafant's grave and paid my respects yet again. Man, 14 does a really good job of just really making you sad about Orshafant. Rest in peace, King. But yeah, then jumping back into the MSQ, the first thing that Lighto did was had a long overdue meal with Aymeric. And it was nice just to see the two of them just chilling, having food, having a good time. I think Lighto is now suspicious of any time someone is pouring wine around him, because I would be too. I'm like, hey, is this good? Are we all good here? But it's nice to just have this moment of peace and hanging out. I like little moments like that in TV shows, anime, video games, where just the characters just get to chill for a bit. That's nice. But the meal is interrupted with news that Alice had been attacked and wounded by a warrior of darkness. She'd been shot by one of their arrows and was in critical condition. And so we stopped the meal to go check on her and find out that the Ixal were planning to summon Garuda. And we decided we need to prevent that from happening so that the warriors of darkness can't kill Garuda and further their plans. And we succeed in preventing the Ixal from summoning Garuda, but then we end up having a confrontation with the warriors of darkness afterwards. And there is a new 6th member of the team, who I think is Urianger. He's been hanging out with the Ascians and Warriors of Darkness in secret, and conveniently, Urianger hides the top half of his face, while this mysterious Matt Stranger masks the bottom half of his face. I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure you're just Urianger, which is weird that nobody recognizes him. Because if you ever have a friend who you see in an outfit, even if they're fully covered. You can kind of tell it's them. Like if you've ever been to like a Halloween costume party and then you got like a buddy dressed as Spider-Man, even if you didn't come together, even if you didn't know that's what they were going to be wearing, you're just kind of used to their just like body type and their aura. Like you can just, you know, I know aura is like a little bit hippy dippy, but like you can just like tell someone's vibe, and especially if you hear them talk. So like I don't know why anyone couldn't be like, hey, isn't it Urianger? But yeah, the Warriors of Darkness state that they want to save their world, even if it means destroying this one. Their world is overflowing with light, the balance is off, and so they need to destroy this world to bring balance to their world. Former heroes who have been turned into villains because they've run out of options. But we managed to stave off their plans, at least for now. So then we reunite with Alice, and she reveals that she's been tailing the Warriors of Darkness, and knows that the Warriors of Darkness are trying to bring about a calamity by killing primals, so that beastmen will summon even more powerful primals, because their regular primals aren't primal enough. You need like super primals to defend the beast tribes from everyone else in Eorzea. So basically the idea is the beastmen do their normal primal summoning, and they will be so desperate when their primals keep getting killed that they will summon even more powerful primals, which will bring about a calamity in Eorzea, and by bringing about a calamity in Eorzea, that will save the world of the Warriors of Darkness. But Alice is fully recovered, and she joins the party. So then we go to meet with Urianger for info, and he tells us that there have been numerous shipments of stolen crystals lately, and he tells us that Titan is being revived. And Alice thinks he's super sus because, you know, she's seen him with Ascians and the Warriors of Darkness and has been tailing him for a while. So she's like, I know something's up with you, but she doesn't tell any of us what's going on. She just keeps her suspicions to herself, which I know they kind of justify that a bit later, but she should have told us exactly what was going on. So we go to Camp Overlook to touch base with the military personnel there, and we hear that a kobold has been seen around the camp. And so we find the kobold child, Gabu, and Gabu explains that his leader is going to sacrifice his parents to revive Titan as an even stronger primal, which is basically the plan of the Warriors of Darkness, to make the beastmen desperate that they'll do horrible things in order to summon even more powerful primals. And so we go and steal the stolen crystals from the kobolds to make sure that they can't summon Titan. And Alphino notices that the shipping crates have an Asgardian crest that was removed from them, which is super suspicious. But then we confront the kobold leader, and unfortunately it's too late, and Gabu's parents were killed as a sacrifice for Titan. And I know I've talked lately about 14, you know, how, they're not really killing off anybody, which, haha, funny for this vlog, am I right? Or that's been like a criticism people have had of the game, is that like 14 doesn't kill off any characters. Until we get into like later expansions, I'm not really seeing that as a real criticism, especially after this week's vlog and reflecting upon all the characters who have died thus far in 14. Saying 14 never kills off characters is, again, I'll have to see what it's like in, you know, Shadowbringers, if there's just too much plot armor or something like that, but I think that is an absurd statement to say that one of the problems with 14 is that they don't commit to killing off characters. So many have died, be it minor characters or major characters. But in the case of Gabu's parents being killed, it's really sad. It is heartbreaking that Gabu's entire point of this mission was, hey, let's hurry up and rescue my parents so they're not sacrificed for, you know, Titan's blood revival. And then that's ultimately a failure. Like, that is just really heartbreaking. And through Gabu's anguish, Titan ends up being summoned anyway, even without the extra crystals. And so there's so much bittersweetness to it. It's just like, the writing here was really phenomenal, and I absolutely loved it, and I was getting locked into the story. But gameplay-wise, I was not locked in because we had to do the Titan primal fight again, the hard Titan fight. It's the exact same fight as in the primal quests. Like, it's the same one from the Duty Finder. You're doing it again, which wouldn't have been so bad if it was an optional fight the first time, but it was required already. And so to do the exact same fight again, you know, look, I'm all about reusing assets and stuff, but that just felt that felt a little bit ridiculous to me, to not add any new element to it and just to have to be the exact same fight. So we fought Titan 3 times as a requirement in 14, and 2 of those fights are the exact same fight. Not even like a raised difficulty, like we're just doing that same fight again. And so I have mixed feelings here because I think narrative-wise, this section was really, really strong. But being forced back into the Duty Finder for that same fight again was pretty weak sauce. Anyway, so after defeating Titan, Gabu is completely silent, and we're worried that he's turned, and that he's under Titan's influence, and that we might have to, put him down, basically like the rabies of the Final Fantasy XIV world. Because his arc wasn't heartbreaking enough. But Alice is quick to defend him and say, hey, we don't know if he's turned or not. He might just have intense trauma. Let's not jump the gun and just murder this child, okay? And so then we get a really good campfire scene with Lighto, Alice, and Gabu. And 14 thus far has had 2 really excellent campfire scenes. I know campfire scenes are sort of a staple of RPGs, but I'll say that this campfire scene with the 3 of them and the campfire scene in Heavensward were 2 of my favorite campfire scenes in RPGs. They were both really strong. So 14, some great campfire scenes, hell yeah. But anyway, then we jump to another scene with the Warriors of Darkness and the Masked Man, and I'm even more sure than ever that he's definitely Urianger, because especially listening to his speech patterns, you're not even hiding the way that you speak. I think it's extremely telegraphed that it's Urianger, with him even talking about Mu and Brita, it's so obviously him. So I have seen the trailers for the different expansions, and I believe I've seen a character that looks very similar to the Masked Man not wearing a mask, and I think I just assumed that was Urianger. The trailers never said that was him, but I just kind of assumed it was him based on the design. So, does Greg have great deductive skills, or was Greg spoiled by trailers? You can decide. Anyway, after that scene, we cut back to the party, and we decide to leave Gabu behind in the care of the Laminsons, and say, hey, take care of this kid. Don't just murk him. And they're yeah, we're not going to murk him. And Gabu does talk again, but does anybody else hear it other than Alice? It's not really clear because nobody really reacts to it, so I wonder, is that a echo thing? Can Alice hear the echo, or what's going on with that? But then if it's an echo thing, why isn't Lighto reacting? So I don't know, I'm a little confused by whether anyone heard Gabu speak there at the end. So maybe that'll be a weird lore thing that's explained later, or it's just he spoke and then just nobody reacted for whatever reason, because that's a big deal, because then that means, oh, he's not turned. That's really good news, guys. But anyway, so we go and meet with Urianger again, and his latest information that he's uncovered is that Ala Mhigan Resistance fighters are smuggling crystals, so we should go investigate. And so right when we're about to leave, we get a call from Thancred, who has the exact same information, but it's super sus how Urianger also has the info. Because based on what Thancred was saying, he was the only one who should have been able to uncover that info so quickly, because it basically just happened. So how would Urianger know about that? Unless he was in on it, dun dun dun. I mean, there's very little mystery at this point. I feel like they're trying to set this up as a big reveal. But I keep thinking, yeah, this is very obvious what's going on here. Alice needs to tell the party what's up and just confront Urianger about what's going on. That was my thought at the time. Alice, just tell everybody what's going on, confront Urianger, stop, just being uncomfortable around him and not telling everybody else what's going on. Anyway, so we go to Little Ala Mhigan to investigate the Resistance, and we hear about a man named Griffin who is leading the Resistance and is given a speech later, and we should go check out that speech. And so we go check out the speech and finally meet up with Yda and Papalymo again. The duo revealed that they've been helping the Resistance for a while since the Resistance helped them escape from Ul'dah during the Bloody Banquet. And they also reveal that the Griffin doing the speech isn't actually the Griffin, the leader of the Resistance, but is a body double, because the real Griffin is super protective and doesn't reveal himself too often. People wonder about the Griffin's identity because apparently the Griffin is a middle-aged man who just sort of appeared out of nowhere to lead the Ala Mhigan Resistance, and people wonder why wasn't he part of the Resistance beforehand? What was he doing for the rest of his life? And so that makes me think, oh, the Griffin is definitely just Ilberd. That's the only person that it would make sense to be. The Griffin is Ilberd. He wants to free Ala Mhigan. It would make sense as to why he's hiding his identity. It's Ilberd. And just so it's clear, as I'm going through my notes, I'm giving you what my thoughts were at the time as I was playing this. I thought to myself, yeah, it's gotta be Ilberd. Who else could it be? And so we go and meet with the Griffin, or, the Griffin's body double, and the Griffin reveals that the Ala Mhigan Resistance are working with the Amalja, giving them crystals if they agree to help fight the Empire with them. They do not care if the Amalja summon their primal, just as long as they are able to topple the Empire. That's all they care about is their freedom, the Resistance. and the Griffin body double reveals that the Warrior of Light inspired a lot of people in the Ala Mhigan Resistance, and inspired him personally because the Warrior of Light saved him a while back in one of the MSQ quests. He was the Ala Mhigan guy who got like injured, poisoned back in A Realm Reborn, and then we got the like elk horns or whatever to help heal him. I do not remember his name, but I do remember that as being a side quest, not side quest, a main scenario quest that stuck out because, you know, violating the law of the forest in order to save someone's life, and like, you know, what is the ultimate good in that situation. And I think me, you know, being a vegetarian, not necessarily liking, you know, going out and, you know, killing some random animals, but also, you know, did I, you know, do it to save a life? And so the complicated nature of that quest made it stand out to me. I know a lot of people have said that, because I, you know, was looking on message boards and stuff later, that they completely forgot about that quest. But for me, it stood out, and so it was a nice callback. But yeah, I do not remember the guy's name, but what I do remember is to make sure I do the mid-video call to action. That's the part of the video where I ask you to like the video, comment on the video, tell me your thoughts on this section of the game, subscribe to the channel, and share the video with a friend. Share it on social media. Tell people about Greg's 14 Adventures. Spread the word. I do these every week and haven't missed a week yet, knock on wood, aside from like special video essays that came out on Fridays instead. But otherwise, I've been doing this pretty steadily for like 32 weeks. And the best way to help ensure that I keep doing them is just liking the videos, commenting, sharing, because that helps more people see them. And they basically like will pay for my 14 sub. I make the tiniest bit of money from these videos, and they basically just pay for my sub, essentially. I've also got a Discord server, so if you want to come hang out, please do. Just the main rule is don't be a jerk. That's the main rule, like be chill, be nice to people, be normal, don't be an asshole. And, you know, try to keep it PG-13 in terms of sexual content, just because, you know, keep it safe for work. But otherwise, yeah, come hang out on the Discord. It's a good time. All right, mid-video call to action over. So after our meeting with the Griffin, we reunite with Thancred and storm the Malja base to prevent Ifrit from being summoned by fighting the Warriors of Darkness. And we get a warning of like, hey, there's going to be a long cutscene after this fight, so you should be prepared for some long cutscenes. And while the warning for last week wasn't that bad, but like, oh, you got a long cutscene coming up, put some time aside, I didn't really feel that was that big of a deal. This was warranted. This entire sequence does take up some time. Not only are there cutscenes before the fight and after the fight, there are also multiple solo duties in this section. So it's not just, oh, there's a cutscene, a duty, and then some cutscenes afterward. Like, no, it's cutscene, duty, another cutscene, another duty, more cutscenes, and the cutscenes are long. This is a very lengthy sequence. The first fight with the Warriors of Darkness, it's a pretty scripted battle, and ends pretty quickly, not too much to talk about it. After the fight, Urianger reveals himself as a double agent. He was pretending to betray us in order to help us, and was just like doing all these machinations, but basically pretending he had joined sides with the Assassins and Warriors of Darkness. But then, surprise, nope, his loyalties were always with the Scions, which is basically what I thought. Because my assumption was, okay, Urianger is still a quest NPC for optional quests. They're not going to lock you off from doing those quests. So he's going to stay a good guy, and he's not going to die. So I'm just guessing he's going to be a double agent. That was my assumption because of MMO game mechanics. And that is one disadvantage of the MMOs versus the single-player games, is because there are certain rules that MMOs have to abide by in terms of just mechanical functionality, where it does make some of the storytelling more predictable because they're kind of forced into a box. Like, if a character is tied to an optional side quest, that character ain't gonna die. At least in the MSQ. But yeah, like I said, the first fight was fine, but I did lose the second fight, and I was really frustrated having to do all that over again. But I was extremely thankful for the skip cutscene button. I'm not a cutscene skipper in general, but if I lose a fight, yeah, I'm going to skip the cutscene beforehand and just jump right into it. But yeah, for some reason I lost that first fight, but the second go around wasn't that bad. Basically just had to help Alice channel her sword, Spirit Bomb, use our blessing to counteract the Warriors of Darkness's blessing. And so after the fight, we get summoned into the Crystal Realm, and Urianger reveals that he set all this up so that Minfilia can sacrifice herself to save the world of the Warriors of Darkness. A life for a world. Urianger admits that the choice was not his to make, but he knew that Minfilia would want to do it. And so that's why he put all the chess pieces in motion, because he had to get both the Warriors of Darkness to the Crystal Realm and the Warrior of Light and the Scions to this realm, all for this meeting, so that Minfilia can make the decision to save the world of the Warriors of Darkness. And so Minfilia agrees to bind herself to the First, which is a term that sounds really familiar. I'm pretty sure we're going to go there at some point, because I've heard 14 fans talk about the First. That's the world of the Warriors of Darkness, but Minfilia is going to bind herself to that world in order to save it. And it's at this point I'm starting to think like, oh, maybe Minfilia actually is going to be permadead after this. Maybe I was wrong about her coming back in later expansions. Like, this might be it for Minfilia. And I was like, damn, I think this is really the end for her. I thought she just had like a Disney death, like, oh, I'm in the crystal, I'll probably come back later, but like, because, Y'shtola came back. But this is, no, I think this might be the actual end of Minfilia, which is a little bit disappointing because it felt like there was still so much for her to do. It felt like there was so much she wanted to do with the Scions. And so it is very bittersweet. And, all the stuff with the Warriors of Darkness is bittersweet as well. These people who were just, heroes who try to do everything right and didn't ask to be, the saviors of the realm, but had it thrust upon them. And just went through this harrowing, awful journey. When they were first introduced, I wasn't really blown away by their story, but the last few scenes with them really built them up as characters and really made me appreciate them. And so I thought this entire sequence was very, very strong. And so after the fight, we go and inform Yda and Papalymo about what happened. And while telling them about the fate of Minfilia, Gundobald shows up and recognizes Yda, and she acts really sus there and gets really cagey and awkward about being recognized by Gundobald. After this scene, there's actually a lot of scenes of Yda sulking and being a bit awkward and suspicious, and a lot of scenes of Papalymo having internal monologues. And so there's something unspoken going on between these characters at this point in the story, and you're really wondering what's going on with Yda and what's going on with Papalymo. What are they hiding from everyone? It comes up like a few times periodically throughout the rest of the patch quests, but I'm just mentioning it here to put a pin in that. But anyway, we make our way back to the Rising Stones. The Scions are reunited, but without a leader, and they all opt to just do their own thing, go their separate ways, and just, meet up as long as they all have the goal of protecting Eorzea. They don't need like a leader or structure. They don't have to be bound by a specific oath. It's just like, everybody do your own thing, just try to be a good guy. That is Alphino's suggestion, because trying a rigid hierarchy didn't work before, so let's just everybody do your own thing, which I don't know if that's such a good idea either. You're just sort of ping-ponging between extremes. Just because a leader made some bad decisions at one point doesn't mean that all leadership should cease to exist. But yeah, Krall and Alice officially join the Scions, and so we have a new Scion lineup. So with talk with the Scions at the Rising Stones, Urianger has some lore about the world that seems really important, and so I made sure to make a note of this, where the Ascians and the Warriors of Darkness thought that Urianger would join them because they knew the truth about how the world was structured. And so because of that knowledge of truth, and just knowing that they were right, he would side with them, even if it meant betraying his friends, because it was ultimately the truth about the world. So like I said, that seems super important, so I'm going to definitely pay attention to that going in the future, because that seems like, a blink and you miss it piece of dialogue that is probably going to be the crux of the entire story. But anyway, then we get a cutscene of Elidibus giving Nidhogg's eyes to the Griffin, which, yep, I knew that's what was going to happen. And they explained that later, because the Warriors of Darkness being already dead was how they could handle, like, the Ether Storm in the Abyss. So only someone who would not be destroyed by the Storm of Ether could get the eyes. And because they were already dead, that's where they were able to go and survive in the eyes of Nidhogg. So, lore. It's great, isn't it? But then we also see a cutscene with Nero being back. I'm like, oh man, does that mean Fiyero is back too? I don't remember the character name, just the character that's played by Jonathan Bailey, the cat boy. I don't remember his name, but, after seeing Wicked, he's just Fiyero. But anyway, back at Scion HQ, the Scions have another meeting, and Alphino says that, hey, even though we don't need, like, a formal leader to, like, tell us what to do, we should have someone who just coordinates things and just make sure we're, facilitating ourselves in an intelligent way. Basically a leader. But then immediately goes, not it. He's like, nope, I don't want to do it. Somebody else do it. Like, we should have some kind of structure so it's not total chaos, but I don't want to be the one doing it. And so during our meeting about deciding whether or not the Scion should have a leader, a Makote named Minago shows up and explains that the Ala Mhigan Resistance is going to try to force war between the Empire and the Alliance by taking over Baelsar's wall and drawing the Alliance into open conflict with the Empire. And so Y'shtola gives everybody assignments and coordinates the Scions like she's a leader, which I'm going to put a pin in. Maybe Y'shtola ends up being the leader of the Scions because she does a great job of just taking charge and say, you're doing this, you're doing this, you're doing this, okay, let's go. So maybe she is the leader the Scions are meant to have. And Lighto gets sent to Isgard to meet with Aymeric, who is chosen to represent Isgard at the meeting of the Eorzean Alliance. Before going to Gridania to meet with the Alliance members, we stop at Fort Dragonhead and see that a Manlin has been put in charge of Fort Dragonhead. He acknowledges he won't ever be able to replace Orshafant, but will do his best to carry out his duties. Big old portrait of Orshafant hanging above the empty chair. Man, once again, they really do a good job of making you miss Orshafant. Even in the end credits for the patch quest, they made sure that Orshafant is the last character to get credited to just really drive that home for you. But that plus, especially the Heavensturn event, they're just for me personally, my personal 14 journey, it's really been hammered in hard about oh man, just there's this void that is left of Orshafant not being in his chair. But anyway, after that, we go to Gridania, and the Eorzean Alliance has a big old meeting, and everybody agrees to gather their forces together in case of an attack from the Empire. But then a group of Ala Mhigans disguised as the Eorzean Alliance attacks Baelsar's wall, trying to incite a war between the Eorzean Alliance and the Empire. So that while the Empire is distracted dealing with the Alliance, the Ala Mhigans can rise up in resistance and finally free themselves from Imperial rule. Because we had sent a scout team of Thancred, Yda, Papalymo, and Ygiri into Baelsar's wall, Alphinaud goes on a stealth mission to warn them of the danger and help them escape, while Lighto is told to storm the fort directly to confront the Griffin and convince him to stand down. And of course, when Lighto finally confronts Griffin, it's revealed to be Ilberd, which, again, I thought was pretty obvious. Ilberd's plan was to sacrifice all of the Ala Mhigans invading the fort, so that they can be filled with so much hatred in their final moments that it will summon their god to defeat the Garleans. And so I guess the plan was to lure them into the fort, make them think they're taking it over and getting the Alliance and the Empire to go to war. But then there are members of their team who are actually traitors who have infiltrated the Empire side and are ratting out the locations of the Ala Mhigans to have them be slaughtered. And so Laurentis is one of the people in charge of ratting out the Ala Mhigan's location. And this is the first time where he's ever actually looked guilty for something he's done. He turns on his comrades and sends in the Garlean reinforcements to kill everyone, while Yu Hase looks on with a big old smile on his face. Man, he is going to be so satisfying to kill. Yu Hase, yeah, he is going to get murked so hard. But yeah, the scene where the Ala Mhigan Resistance fighters all get killed, it's just it's really brutal and sad, and their optimism goes to horror so quickly. 14 is a really dark game in a lot of ways. As silly and light as the seasonal events, can be, the MSQ can just get oppressively dark. It's not a surprise that this team went on to make Final Fantasy 16. This is just brutal and harsh. I think that 14 is one of the darkest games in the series. When 14 gets dark, it gets really dark. But yeah, at this point, Ilberd has gone full villain. He has Nidhogg's eyes, which, was what I predicted earlier, and allows the hatred of Nidhogg's ether to flow through his veins and jumps off the platform, sacrificing himself in one final act of hatred to help bring about the dark god of the Ala Mhigans. And man, that squish sound was just brutal. I was like, damn, ugh. Yeah, it was, the sound effect versus what we ended up seeing, it wasn't that bad compared to the sound effect. I thought, the thoughts of what this would have looked like as an M-rated game and the splatter was not there, but oof, that sound. But anyway, the Ala Mhigan god starts to be summoned, but Papalymo sacrifices himself to save everyone. I forgot to mention earlier, but Papalymo asked to be in charge of Louisoix's staff, and they already incorporated that into the story. He used it to cast the same spell Louisoix did to seal Bahamut, to seal the primal god of the Ala Mhigans. And, because I heard all the stuff in 14, from 14 fans, like, oh, nobody actually dies in 14. Everybody's got plot armor. I thought, like, oh, well, maybe he'll get through this. And then I went and read the wiki. I'm like, nope, he's super dead. He is actually full on dead. And I was like, oh, okay, so that criticism of 14 fans saying nobody dies is just kind of dumb. Got it. But this entire sequence was really, really strong. The emotional impact of Papalymo's sacrifice was it hit really hard. I think it's a way of giving players who didn't get the chance to play 1.0 the ability to feel the loss of Louisoix, because I didn't get to experience 1.0 and didn't get to grow as attached to Louisoix by playing through the full game. I watched the cutscenes, but I didn't get the impact of his death the same way as someone who played through it. And this is effectively giving people who are playing, 2.0 and onwards, the same impact of a character you've grown to really care for, sacrificing himself to stop a dragon primal from destroying the land. So, it's like poetry, it rhymes, but the storytelling here, like this entire sequence, was really strong. I was blown away by it. I thought it was amazing. Yeah, it hit me really hard. This is the kind of stuff where I'm starting to see why people say 14 is the best Final Fantasy game, where, there's a lot of peaks and valleys for 14, and it'll be like riding high, and then it'll sink to some lows that I'm not as into. I don't dislike it, but I'm just not as into it, and then go back to the highs. And I'm starting to realize, like, oh shoot, okay, this sequence, like all this stuff in these, final patch quests were maybe better than Heavensward itself. Like, this stuff has been really, really good. Like, a lot of the patch content, the stuff during the Dragon Song War was, like, kind of middling, ending on a high note. And then basically all of this has been some of the best stuff I've experienced in 14. And I think to myself, okay, if Shadowbringers is just this the whole time, but even better, I'm understanding the 14 hype. But yeah, Ilberd for killing the Scions. Like, because of him, so many people have suffered. Raban lost his arm. Minfilia is possibly real dead. Papalymo is dead. Like, as far as, like, villains who have just wrought so much anguish upon our heroes, Ilberd has, thus far, been the worst villain in 14. He might have had good motivations for trying to help Ala Mhigan, but, like, he has screwed us over so incredibly hard and led to so much death and hardship and anguish. Yeah, that dude. And man, just, the heartbreak of Yda dealing with Papalymo's death is that just hit me really hard. That was really excellent storytelling. They've always been a pair. It's always been the two of them together, and her without him, and just what that means for her character, and just what she has to grow and accept her changes. And, there's a plot reveal about her a little bit later, but you just really feel like her anguish and heartbreak with Papalymo's death. Papalymo was a character I felt I never got enough backstory for in terms of what makes him tick and, like, his origins and such. And I really wanted more of him in the game. And I'm a little bit bummed that I don't get to see more of his origins and backstory. But what I did get of him, I did like a lot, and I thought his finale was really, really powerful, and he just, he went out as a great Scion. But anyway, after that, it was getting to be the time where I do my weekly playdate with Summoner Jobin, and so I logged in with Gred Troyan, my alt character, who was the character I beat 14 with originally back in 2022, but has since become my alt that I play with Summoner Jobin once a week. And because that character is still in the A Realm Reborn era of the game, I decided to go and visit the ghost of dead friends. I went and visited Papalymo, Minfilia. Just, it felt good to be around those characters again, just seeing their models and just hanging out with them, remembering better times before just the bloody banquet and all that hardship. And then last but not least, I went to go visit my buddy Orshafant, who was another character, was making sure that Orshafant got some action from beyond the grave. So I got to see Orshafant eating some, and it made me chuckle, because that is one of the joys of an MMO is just ridiculous bullshit like that. But, good for them for making sure that Orshivant gets some action. And, Orshivant, he's a classic guy. He made sure that he pleases the ladies. So, hell yeah, Orshivant. All around solid dude. But yeah, then I did the New Year's event with Summoner Jobin. I wore an outfit that I got from a different seasonal event a couple years ago, I think at this point. Because I've been enjoying some Super Sentai lately. I've been checking out, which is basically Japanese Power Rangers. And I've been checking out the Gokaiger season, the season where they're pirates. And it's just been a really fun adventure show that I've just been really digging. The tone is very different than Power Rangers, and it's just a very fascinating experience to compare the two shows. I could get into a whole spiel about that, but this vlog is already long enough as it is, and I've got to edit it, so... But yeah, Japanese Power Rangers, it's cool. Ask me about it on my Discord if you're interested. But yeah, we did the New Year's quest, and then at the end of our playdate, did the requirements to unlock the Lost City of Ampador and the Wanderer's Place, which we're going to do next week. And then, after our playdate, the next time I logged in, it was time to play as Lighto again and continue the MSQ. So we get a scene of the Scions just mourning the loss of Papalymo, and then we cut to a scene of a tall guy coming to Vesper Bay, and he seems very loud, very boisterous, just a really huge jacked guy, and he's from the east, which means, oh yes, we're setting up Stormblood. He's going to be a Stormblood character. So then we go to Gridania to meet up with the Alliance leaders to update everyone on the Primal situation, because while the Primal is sealed inside that cocoon of Papalymo's ether, we don't know how long it's going to hold out, so we have to figure out a solution to this. And Nero shows up with some really excellent voice acting and suggests using Omega, which is an ancient Allagan robot specifically used to quell primals, and suggests using that to quell this primal. Omega has been in a bunch of different Final Fantasy games, sort of a recurring monster. First appeared in Final Fantasy I as sort of a optional super boss that, back then was just a random encounter that could just completely wreck you if you ran into it. I think that Omega was actually done best in Final Fantasy Brave Exvius. There is an entire season of that game where Omega is the primary antagonist and is basically like a Genova Lavos figure in Brave Exvius, and is written extremely well as this just overwhelming oppressive force. It's like Lavos from Chrono Trigger meets Sin from Final Fantasy X, and just like a very, very oppressive force. Really well done in Brave Exvius. I could go into a lot more specifics on that, but again, this vlog is already super long. But anyway, Omega is sealed away inside Cartno, so we need to go to Cartno to activate Omega to deal with the primal situation. But before we do that, we go to Scion HQ to regroup, and there's a pretty funny scene with Nero talking about how uncivilized the Eorzeans are, and Tataru talking about how, like, hey man, I've got this pot that's really good at boiling water. We're not uncivilized at all. That just cracked me up. Man, I love Tataru. She's one of my favorite characters. She's great. Best Scion, Tataru. But as we're getting ready to go, the large man named Gotestu shows up. And he's like, hey, there's problems brewing in the east. That's where the next expansion is. Yugiri, come help us out. But she's like, no, we've got to finish this storyline before we do the next expansion. And he's like, all right, well, I'll help you because I like fighting. And so then it's time to go to Cartano to activate Omega, but there is a solo duty. We have to fight off the Empire to get to Omega. And this solo duty annoyed me greatly, but not for the reasons you might think. The first time I did the duty, I lost because I had trouble targeting with the Magitech armor. I would keep shifting who I was aiming at, and it just wasn't working, and I just wasn't used to piloting the Magitech armor and just lost the duty. The second time I tried the duty, I got kicked out of the fight because of DDoS attacks. Everybody's favorite part of Final Fantasy XIV. So I tried doing the fight again, and once again got kicked out due to another DDoS attack. I'm like, all right, fine. Whatever. Exodus is a popular server. I'm going to try moving to a different server. Went to a different data center, different server, did the fight, beat the fight, and got kicked out during the cutscene. But luckily, when I logged back in, it brought me right back to the cutscene, did not make me do the fight again. I would have been infuriated if I had to do the fight again. DDoS attacks, they're just awful. Why do you want to just ruin somebody's good time? But yeah, Yda's tattoo vanishes, meaning that Papalymo's ether has been drained completely and that he is truly 100% definitely dead. And the primal monster is unleashed from its prison, and it's Shinryu. And so Shinryu and Omega have a big, cool cutscene battle and defeat each other and land somewhere in the east, I think in Ala Mhigan territory. And so when we regroup with the Eorzean Alliance afterwards, they decide, okay, it's time to finally free Ala Mhigan, which I'm interested to see how that'll work, because I feel like with the way 14 story is set up, the Empire pretty much has to fall, and Ala Mhigan has to become free. But how is that going to affect the Imperial outposts that are in 14's world, and how is that going to affect Little Ala Mhigan as a settlement and the refugees in Ul'dah? How are they going to explain that for the purposes of NPCs and storytelling and such? So I'm interested to see how they'll handle that. But anyway, then Yda reveals that she's actually not Yda, but Lyse, Yda's sister, and took on Yda's identity after Yda died 6 years ago, which would have meant 1 year prior to 1.0. So the Yda we've known throughout all of Final Fantasy XIV has never been Yda, but has actually been Lyse, which, I don't know how much of a difference that makes. If the Yda in 1.0 was a different character, maybe this would have more of an impact. But it's just like, okay, whatever, you've got a different name. You had a sister who was in the Scions, and then you joined the Scions because you wanted to live up to her legacy. But, now that Papalymo is dead, and you're free to actually be your own person and follow your own path. Like, I get why they're doing that narratively, but I don't know how big of a reveal it is that her sister was the real Yda and that she was an Yda imposter the entire time, since we never got to experience Yda in 14, unless they're saying that a year has passed since all of the events in like ARR and Heavensward, meaning that the Yda in 1.0 was the real Yda and that the Yda in A Realm Reborn and such is Lyse. Maybe that's the case. I'm not certain, so let me know if you think that's the case in the comments below. But it does feel like, in some ways, we're losing another Scion, because Yda is now completely gone, and now we have Lyse, which I guess is the same character, but with Minfilia gone, with Papalymo gone, and now Yda taking on a new identity. It feels like the Yda we've known for this long time is gone and being replaced with a different character with what seems like a different personality. It feels like the Yda personality she put on wasn't the playful, fun, kind of ditzy character, and it's being replaced with someone who's still a little bit ditzy, but is much more somber and reflective. And so it does feel like we have lost 3 Scions in this way. We've lost Minfilia, we've lost Papalymo, and we've lost Yda. And we're getting Lyse instead, but it still does feel like there is a bit of a loss. No longer Robin, but now Nightwing. But yeah, so my closing thoughts on the patch quest, now that I've finished all of the Heavensward patch quests and am ready to jump into Stormblood. I was really impressed with the storytelling of this last section. The Lyse reveal wasn't as strong. I did know it was coming because I've, the little bit of spoilers I've gotten to 14. I knew that Yda was going to reveal that she had a different name, but I forgot the reason why. The reason why didn't necessarily work for me, but her choosing to reveal her face after the hardship that she had undergone, and the character trope of like the significant haircut. I understand all of that. So while that specific little part of the lore didn't work for me, pretty much everything else in terms of story in this vlog was top notch and some of the best of 14. All of the complaints I had about just not vibing with some parts of the story, thinking yeah, this is fine, but just not as good. Nope, this is 14 firing on all cylinders. This has all been amazing, top notch. And there's just so much great stuff here that I had to gloss over a lot of it. Gotetsu is really fun. Nero was just phenomenal. His voice acting was incredible and really elevated every scene he was in and just added so much to the story. And I'm if this is a taste of what the quality of MXL is going to be, I'm understanding the Shadowbringers vibes. It's making sense. Everything's, falling into place. But yeah, what else can I say? But it was really incredible, and I'm much more favorable of the Heavensward patch content because of how strong it ended. So, basically all of the Dragon Song War stuff in the patch content was just it's alright, it's solid. A solid B. But, this was all, S-rank stuff. Some of the gameplay stuff annoyed me, having to fight Titan again, the exact same fight, but even that couldn't take away from how strong the storytelling was here. This was top-notch, and this was great. I would say that overall, the A Realm Reborn patch content, in terms of story, was better than the Heavensward patch content in terms of story, but the end of the Heavensward patch content might be the best MSQ I've experienced up to this point. The stuff in this vlog was just all around excellent. But yeah, after that, I was ready to do the last thing on my checklist before Stormblood, which was doing the Red Mage Quest, because I, was looking at the wiki and like, okay, these all seem like locations I should have access to before doing Stormblood, so I'll just knock all these out so I can just marathon the MSQ and just get locked into that MSQ vibe, because I like to do, I like to get into a flow. I don't like to jump off and do side quests, unless they're having to do with Moogles. But other than that, I like to, focus on the MSQ, really get locked into the story, the vibe, and so I wanted to knock all the Red Mage quests out first before doing Stormblood. And so I booted up 14 and saw that it automatically shifted over to the Stormblood screen and intro, and man, it felt really cool finally getting there. And I did the first Red Mage quest that was unlocked, with Stormblood being unlocked, and as I was doing the Red Mage quest, I got booted from the server. DDoS attacks! And so I was ready to do the Nets quest in the Red Mage quest line, but it looks like it is a location that is in Stormblood, and so in order to do that quest line, I do have to progress a little bit into Stormblood to do that. All the other locations seem like they're all Heavensward locations, but that one in particular is Stormblood specific, meaning that I'm going to have to put the Red Mage quest on hold, and that means next week, Stormblood is finally happening. After all this time, I'm finally getting to Stormblood. I know a lot of people say that Stormblood is one of the weaker expansions, and I don't often fall into the consensus with the Final Fantasy community, and so I've always thought like, people are just saying that. Maybe Stormblood's great. But I'm thinking, well, what if it is a little bit lower quality than Heavensward? What if I don't vibe with it as much? The main thing I've heard about Stormblood is that people say it doesn't tie into the main plot and just kind of tells its own self-contained story, and that's why people don't like it. But I'm okay with that if the self-contained story is good. So, I'm hoping that I like Stormblood even better than Heavensward. That is my hope. I don't know if I will, but that is my hope for the expansion, that I like it better than Heavensward, and that 14 just keeps going up and up and up and up. It's going to be hard to top those Heavensward patch quests, at least the last ones that I did this week. So hopefully Stormblood continues this great trajectory that 14 is going on, but I'm so excited to start Stormblood next week. So this vlog, oh my goodness, is going to be, I hope I get this out on time, the recording session for this, which will be edited down because there's coughing and me stumbling over words sometimes, but this has been a over 2 hour recording session. I really hope I get this vlog out on time. Regardless, thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate chatting with all of you about 14, sharing my thoughts. I'm so looking forward to the comments on this one. I know there's a lot to talk about. So please, tell me your thoughts on this, and tell me your thoughts on my thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, don't forget to share, and don't forget to join the Discord if you so choose. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video as I start Stormblood. Bye, everyone.